Hello there and welcome to the video on iterative equations. Here we're going to be solving equations using the method of iterative sequences. So let's just remind ourselves of what iterative sequences are. I'd like you to pause the video and have a go at working out the first 6 values in the sequence defined by these iterative sequences. Pause the video, give this one a go. Okay, so the first 6 values in the sequences, well, in the first sequence, it's definitely going to start with a 4. We know that the first term in the sequence, that's what this x1 means. The first term in the sequence of x numbers is 4. So what we then do is grab our calculator, put 4 into the calculator, and then 4 is now the answer value. So what we're now going to type into the calculator is this formula here, and this formula here helps us work out the next number in the sequence, x2. So it's going to be 2 times the previous term in the sequence. This little symbol here is a symbol that effectively means the previous number in the sequence if we're working out the nth number in the sequence. So that will be 2 times 4, add 3 divided by 5. And now 4 is currently stored as the answer value in the calculator. So just use the answer value on your calculator to get 2.2. This would be the second number in the sequence, and the next number in the sequence, you don't have to change anything on your calculator screen, just press the equals button again, because it's now going to use 2.2 as the answer value, and that will effectively loop it back in as the new input into your iterative sequence. So it's now going to be 1.48. Press the equals button again, and you get 1.192. 2 more to go. 1.0768, and the final 6th term in the sequence 1.03072. So there we are, that's the answer to this question here. A lot of this is done on the calculator. You don't actually have to do much writing down here. Just make sure you formatted the calculator correctly. You format the calculator by using the answer value where the xn-1 appears. In the next question, the notation is slightly different. This is xn plus 1 and this is xn, but notice how there's just a 1 difference between the notation in both of the questions, which make both of these questions exactly the same kind of question, basically. You have to do exactly the same thing as before. Put 2 into your calculator, so 2 would be the first number in the sequence. And then to work out the next number in the sequence, you use this formula here, where 2 will help you work out the second term in the sequence, because 2 is the previous term in the sequence. So it's going to be the square root of 9 minus 2 lots of the answer value. Currently the answer value is 2, and we get 2.236. The next number in the sequence, don't change anything on your calculator screen, just press equals again, 2.128. Next number in the sequence is 2.178. The next number in the sequence is 2.155, round into 3 decimal places. How many have we got here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. One more, please. And we're going to get 2.166 to 3 decimal places. Now, what you could probably see here on the calculations is that the numbers seem to be going downwards in this one here, and in this one here, it's kind of going up, then down, then up, then down, then back up again. So in 2 different ways, it seems to be going either up, up, so down, 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 or up, 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 down, up, down, up, down, up, down. But it seems to be heading towards a certain value. If you were just to keep on pressing the equals button here, what you'd probably find is that it ends up keep on looping around to the same number over and over and over again in the sequence. So that's what we're going to use to help us solve some equations. Here is a model question that you will be expected to be able to answer. And we'll go through each of the 3 stages together. So let's just have a look at the first stage then. The first stage asks us to rearrange x squared minus 3x minus 8 equals 0 into this expression here. Okay, so this is a bit of algebraic rearranging time here. So write down what you're starting with, and we want to rearrange it into this expression here. Now if we look at this expression here, it's got a square root around it. So probably eventually I need to undo this squaring on the x squared here. And also on the other side, the 3x has turned from minus 3x into positive 3x, and the minus 8 has turned into positive 8. So I reckon on both sides of my formula, I need to add 3x to both sides. When I add 3x onto the left-hand side, it will disappear, and it will appear on the right-hand side. Exactly the same with the 8. I'm going to add 8 to both sides. So it's going to be x squared minus 8 add 8, those two will cancel, and it will be 3x plus 8. And the final step to do will be to do this square rooting process to get rid of the squared on the x. So it's going to be x equals the square root of everything on the right hand side, 3x plus 8. And there we are, we've done the rearranging of this equation. Now why have we done that? Well, if we look down in part B, we can see that there is now an iterative formula that looks exactly the same as what we've rearranged it into from part A. And there's a reason for that, is because when we start to use this iterative formula on the calculator, it's actually going to give us an answer that will tend towards the solution to this original equation. So I've kind of gone through 4 processes here. I've started with my equation, rearranged it into something else where it's x equals. The next stage will be to use some an iterative sequence, and then the final step will be to conclude that if I keep on working through the numbers in the sequence, it will actually work out for me an answer to this original equation. So I'm using iterative sequences to answer a question, which is solve this equation. Okay, so let's get rid of those arrows and now concentrate on doing part B of this question. So we start with the number 2 as the first term in the sequence, so put that into your calculator first, and then we're going to find the second, third, fourth, fifth and sixth term in the sequence. So we'll start with x1 equals 2. And then to find the second term in the sequence, we use the iterative formula. So we plug this formula into the calculator, but we use the answer button instead of xn minus 1. So set the formula up and use the answer button inside there, and we get the second term in the sequence, which is 3.7417, making sure we round correctly there. The 5 bumps up the 6 to a 7. Moving on to the next one is 4.3846. Remember, all of these are to 4 decimal places. It says so in the question. The next one will be 4.5993. The fifth term in the sequence is going to be 4.6688. And finally, the sixth term in the sequence is going to be 4.6911. Now what you can see here is that the answers are starting from 2, jumped up to 3, jumped up to 4, jumped up to about 4.6, and now what it's doing is it's slowly settling down to what the actual answer is. What I want you to do now in part C is to continue to use the iterative formula to find the solution to this equation. Now what that effectively means is just keep on hitting the equals button, hit the equals button, equals 1, equals 1, equals 1, equals 1. Just keep on hitting that equals button until you carry on, until you can't hit it no more, so that the number stops changing and that it just calms down to a sensible number. And if we just carry on pressing that equals button, then it will end up at x equals 4.6911. So there we are, that's the answer, it's one of the answers to this equation then. So what we've done here is, again, we've gone through the process of taking our equation that we want to solve, turning it into rearranging it into an expression where it says x equals, use that as the iterative formula, keep on using that iterative formula, and that will give you a solution to the thing you have rearranged it from into. So there we are, 4.6911 is the answer to this equation here. Let's have a go at another one then. Maybe what you might want to do if you're feeling confident with this is pause the video and have a go through sections A, B and C. I'll now go through it myself. So we're going to start with x cubed minus 2x squared minus 9 equals 0. It always starts off with one of these rearrange part A's, and then it's part B for the calculator and part C for the calculator. So start off with part A, which is the rearrange one. It looks like we're using a cube root here. That's what this little 3 means here. So I'm going to have to cube root this x cubed eventually. And it looks like the 2x squared has gone from negative to positive, and the minus 9 from negative to positive on the other side as well. So the first thing I'll do is I'll add 2x squared. So add 2x squared. And that will give me x cubed minus 9 equals 2x squared on the other side. We'll add 9 on both sides now, so that will give us x cubed equals 2x squared add 9. And then we'll cube root to get rid of this cube here, so it'll be the little 3 and then the square root symbol. But because it's got the little 3 on it, it's a cube root symbol. So there we are, we've done part A. Now even if you couldn't do part A, you can actually still have a go at part B. So let's now have a go at part B. Use the iterative formula. Notice how what we've rearranged our equation into is exactly the same as the iterative formula. This is how this process works. So we start with the number 4 because it tells us to start with the number 4, and then we insert the formula, the iterative formula, into our calculator, but we use the answer button where it says xn minus 1. So the second term in the sequence here to 4 decimal places is 3.4482. The third term in the sequence, don't change anything on the calculator, just hit the equals button again, 3.2004. Press the equals button again, x4, and we get 3.0894. Be careful of your rounding there. The fifth term in the sequence, press equals button again, 3.0398, and then press the equals button again one final time to get the sixth term in the sequence, 3.0177. There we are. You can see here it's probably going downwards. It's going downwards to our final approximate solution. So it might be heading down to something like 3. Now moving on to part C, continue to use the iterative formula to find the solution to this equation here. There might be more than one solution, but we'll find a solution at least. Now just continue hitting the equals button on your calculator. Just absolutely bash it. Equals until it stops changing the number on your calculator at all. So if you just carry on pressing the equals button, it actually ends up at the really friendly answer of the number 3. And that's just a coincidence that it's ended up as a nice number. Usually it ends up as some really complicated decimal answer. Just a coincidence here. It's ended up as a really nice friendly 3. Alright, let's have a go at another one. So yeah, feel free to pause the video and give this one a try before we go through it on the video, just to get some practice in. And hopefully you will now know to do a rearrange for part A. So let's start with x squared plus 11x minus 19 equals 0. Now looking at what we want to rearrange it into, it looks like we divide by 11 at some point. So I'm thinking, don't move this 11 here, 11x. The 19 looks like it moves from negative to positive, and the x squared moves from a positive to a negative on the other side, and then we divide by 11 after we've got this on the other side. So I'm thinking, okay, first thing to do is add 19 to both sides. That would get rid of the minus 19 on the left, and we've got 19 on the right now. Take away x squared from the left hand side, and that will give us 19 minus x squared. And then divide by the 11, so it would be x equals 19 minus x squared over 11. Effectively what I've done there is I've used my answer to work out what I need to do to the equation to turn it into this formula here. And then notice how this formula here is exactly the same as the iterative formula I'm about to use on the calculator. So start with an input of 2 in your calculator. Then input the formula into your calculator where you're using the answer button instead of xn minus 1, and the second term in the sequence here is going to be 1.36. Now these two dots mean that those digits will reoccur, so it's going to be 36, 36, 36, 36, 36, 36, 36. I only want it to 4 decimal places, so there we are, 3636. Again, press the equals button again, don't change anything on your calculator screen. Whoops, 1.5582. The fourth term in the sequence is 1.505065. The fifth term in your calculator needs to go 1.5209, and the sixth term in this sequence will be x6 equals 1.51. Be careful of your rounding here. The 7 will round the 9 up, and the 9 will round the 6 up, so it'll be 70. Lovely, so those are the next 5 terms in the sequence here, and now we need to continue to use the iterative formula to find the solution to this equation here. So once again, just bash the equals button, keep on pressing it, keep on pressing it, keep on pressing it until you get a number that doesn't change, and that number ends up as the solution of 1.5178 to 4 decimal places. And there we are. If we plug 1.5178 into this equation, it should give us something that is nearly 0, because we've rounded it. It won't give us it exactly 0, but very, very close to 0. Okay, one more before we go on to the worksheet of questions. Maybe you might want to challenge yourself and pause the video to work this question out. Let's now start with the rearranging. So it's going to be x cubed plus 5x squared minus 11 equals 0. Now it looks like here we're square rooting rather than cube rooting, and then we've got to divide by 5 at some point, and then we've got 11 minus x cubed. I'm thinking the minus 11 is going to have to become positive first of all. That might be a sensible first thing to do. I'm using the answer to what I want to rearrange it into as a clue as to what I need to do to my original equation. Then it's got a minus x cubed in it, so first thing I've done is I've added 11 to both sides. The next thing I'll do is I'll take away x cubed on both sides. So that gives me 5x squared equals 11 minus x cubed. Then I'll divide by the 5 on both sides. So divide by 5, divide by 5. And that will give me x squared equals 11 minus x cubed over 5. And the final thing to do will be to get rid of this square, and the opposite of squaring is square rooting. So square root, and you get x equals the square root of 11 minus x cubed over 5. And there we are, we've rearranged it into this formula here. So once again, notice that what we've done to rearrange it now appears as the iterative formula. So the equations here are linked together. So let's now get started on part B. So into your formula will go the first term, which in this case is 1. And then I'm going to write out the formula into the calculator, but I'm going to use answer button where the xn appears. So the second term in this sequence will go 1.4142. It looks like the square root of 2 to me. That's fine if you wrote that down as your answer. Don't change anything on your calculator screen, just press the equals button again. 1.2784. Press the equals button again and you will get 1.33. Be careful of your rounding here, because the 6 will round the 9 up, and if the 9 rounds up to 10, that will boost up the 4 as well, so it'll be 1.3350. x5, the fifth term in your sequence, will be 1.3131, and the final term in this sequence is going to be 1.3218. Lovely, there we are. So a different part C here. Part C says, what do the values x2, x3, x4, x5, x6 mean in the context of the question? And the answer to this is, they are increasingly accurate solutions to the equation And the equation is this one up here, because we've used this as our iterative formula. We've used this as our iterative formula because of what we've rearranged it into. And what did we start with in our rearrangement? It was this formula up here, or this equation right at the top there. So they are increasingly accurate solutions to this equation right at the top. The more you press equals, the more accurate this answer is going to be. Okay, so it's now your turn to have a go at some of the questions from the worksheet in the link in the description of the video. So make sure you pause the video, come out of the video, click on that worksheet link, have a go at the 4 questions that are there, and we'll go through the answers in a second. Okay, so I really hope you've had a go at these questions here. First part is to do the rearranging. So part A, we start with x squared plus 3x minus 13 equals 0. So let's have a look at the answer and think about what I could do to this equation here to turn it into this equation here. Looks like the 13 has become positive. It's negative here and positive here, so I think I'll add 13 to both sides first. If I add 13, the negative will just cancel out, and I'll have 13 on the right. The 3x is now negative, so I'll take away 3x onto the other side. So take away 3x, and that will cancel it on the left because it's positive. The final thing to do will be to square root the answer, because I've got a squared symbol that needs to get rid of. So there we are, that's the rearrangement done. Even if you can't do the rearranging parts, you can still have a go at the part B, the iterative part. So grab your calculator, type 2 into the calculator first, and then work out the next values, x3, 4, 5, 6, there we are. So type out your formula, but don't type in xn, type in the answer button. So it's going to be 13 minus 3 times the answer, all square rooted. So to 4 decimal places is going to be 2.6458. The third value in the sequence is going to be 2.2501. The fourth value in the sequence, press equals button again, don't change anything on the calculator screen. Wow, this one's tricky to round, so it'd be 4999, but then the 6 will round the 9 up, which will round it to 10, which will round the 9 up to a 10, which will round the 9 up to a 10, which will round the 4 up to a 5. So it's actually going to be 2.5000, 1, 2, 3, 4 decimal places in this answer. Next value, just press equals again, and you're going to get 2.3452, and press equals again, and you're going to get x6, which is 2.4422. So that's the answer to part B. Now moving on to part C, continue to use the iterative formula to find a solution to this equation that we started with right at the beginning, to 4 decimal places. Now what you have to do here, don't change anything on the calculator screen, just spam the equals button, press the equals button again and again and again and again and again and again until you get an answer that does not change. And that answer to this equation is 2.4051. And there we are. That is solving an equation using an iterative sequence. Let's have a go at question 2 now. So first of all, we need to do some rearranging. So x cubed minus 7x plus 13 equals 0. First thing I see is that the 7x is now positive, so I'll add 7x onto the other side. Then I will take away the 13, because at the moment it is positive on the left-hand side. And the last thing to do will be to get rid of this cube, so I have to cube root. So cube root of 7x minus 13. There we are, that's the rearrangement done for this question. And even if you can't do the rearrangement, you can still have a go at part B, the iterative formula part of the question. So type 3 into your calculator first, because that's what it tells you to type in first, and then work out the next values in the sequence. These values will get increasingly more accurate to the final answer. 2 is the answer to this next bit here. 1 is the answer to the third value in the sequence. Very surprisingly that these have come out both as whole numbers. Here we are, right, so minus 1.8171 is the next number in the sequence, press equals button again, you get minus 2.9518, and the final value in the sequence is going to be minus 3.2289. Now, what do these values mean? Describe what these values mean in the context of the question. Well, what these values are doing is they are getting closer and closer to a solution to the original equation that we started the question off with. So they are increasingly accurate solutions to the equation x cubed minus 7x plus 13 equals 0. There we are. So if you carried on pressing the equals button, you would get a more and more accurate answer to this equation up here. Okay, let's move on to question 3 then. Pause the video and give this one a go if you've not already done so. And if you've found that you've learned something from questions 1 and 2, and now you might be able to do question 3, having previously not been able to do it, then make sure you pause the video now and have a good go at it. So the first thing we need to do is start with the rearranging. So x squared plus 9x minus 3 equals 0. And how might we rearrange this here? Well, the clue is in the answer. It looks like 3 is positive, so let's make the 3 positive first of all. The next thing I see is that it's the x squared that's next to the 3 here, so I need to now take away the x squared onto the other side. And then I've got to divide by 9, and that makes sense to divide this by 9 here. And there we are, that's the answer to part A of this question, the rearranging part of the question. And if you can't do part A, you should still be able to have a go at part B. Okay, so put 2 into your calculator then, because it tells you to start off this sequence at the number 2. So the first term in the sequence here is 2. And then type out the formula, but don't write xn. Use the answer button because you're going to want the previous answer to be substituted into your formula at that point. So the next number in the sequence will be 0.1111 because that dot above the 1 means repeat that number 1 in the decimal. Press equals again and you get x3, which is 0.331. So the 6 will round the 9 up, so the 9 will round the 1 up to a 2. So it'll be 3320 on this decimal here. Now the dot above the decimal here, the number 3 here, will actually refer to another dot later on, and it will be repeat all of the numbers between the 2 dots. The reason we didn't have one if we go back here is because there was only one number with a dot above it. When you've got some numbers after a number with a dot on it, it doesn't mean repeat the 3 infinite many times and then put these at the end. It means repeat the numbers in between the 2 digits with dots above them. Moving on to the next number in the sequence, x4 will be 0.3211. The next number in the sequence, x5, is going to be 0.3219. And the final number in this sequence is going to be 0.3218. Now this does seem to be getting pretty close to the answer here. It still hasn't changed much between the 5th number in the sequence and the 6th number in the sequence. So continue to use the iterative formula to find a solution to this equation. We'll just keep on pressing the equals button and you get the number x equals 0.3218 as the final answer to 4 decimal places for this question. So there we are, we've solved an equation using an iterative formula on the calculator. And the final question, this question here has a very difficult rearranging part to it, so very well done if you've done it, but hopefully you've all done parts B and C, because even if you can't do the rearranging part, you can still do the iterative formula parts. Now, here's how it goes. X squared minus 7x plus 3 equals 0. Okay, the 3 is still positive, so I'm going to leave the 3 alone. It needs to stay on the left-hand side. It looks like the 7 here is here, but it's minus 7 here, and it's positive 7 here. So that might need moving on to the other side to make it positive. And also this x squared could do with moving on the other side as well, for a reason I'm about to show you. Now instead of getting rid of the squared by square rooting, think of x squared as x times x. So it's just x multiplied by x. And what I'm now going to do is do some factorizing on the right hand side. What goes inside the bracket is going to be 7 that we'll have to multiply with x to make 7x, and it will be minus x that we'll have to multiply by another x to make it x squared. So I've now got my 7x in a bracket, and now I'll divide it on the other side. 3 divided by 7 minus x equals x. These are the really tough rearranging questions. Well done if you've got it. Don't worry if you haven't, because you can still do part B and part C, so all is not lost. But there we are. If a question like this comes up again, you now know how to do it. Moving on to part B then, type 1 into the calculator first, and then type out the formula with answer value as the xn. So the next value would be a half, 0.5. This is exactly 0.5, so you don't need to write that to 4 decimal places. x3 is going to be 0.4615. Stop there, because we don't have any more. Now, what would happen here with this decimal here, it would be 0.461538, 461538, 461538, 461538. It will just carry on that loop in between the two recurring dots. The next number in the sequence is going to be the fourth term, which is 0.45882. Oh, hold on, I've done too many decimal places there. Stop there. Fifth number in the sequence, let's move on to the next one, will be 0.4586. And the final term in this sequence is going to be x6, which is 0.4586. And there we are. Describe what these values mean in the context of the question. These are increasingly accurate solutions to this equation up here. So that's what you need to write down. Increasingly accurate solutions to the equation x squared minus 7x plus 3 equals 0. And there we are. That's how to solve equations by using iteration. So there we are. That's all we're going to go through in this video. Hopefully you found the video helpful. Hopefully you've learned now how to solve equations using iteration. It's a topic that generally comes up on its own in the GCSE, and yeah, hopefully you found this video helpful. Thanks very much for watching.